Okay, so thanks everybody for being here. And I also want to say hello to everybody who will be tuning in after the fact. My name is Shimbi. I'm the ED at the Saskatchewan Filmpool Cooperative, which is located in Treaty 4 territory. Oop, got a little feedback there. I myself have been born and raised in Winnipeg in Treaty 1, which I hold really dear to my heart and identity, and feel like this color reversal program co-dreamed with Rain Vermette as her idea that came from conversations and co-dreaming with other amazing filmmakers is such a pleasure to be a part of bringing to folks. And I know some of the people here will be a part of this first edition, but I also just want to name that we are definitely dreaming into the future and are not interested in temporary one-offs. So this is very much almost a beta test of what it might be like to have an incubator like this on an annual basis, which is something pretty special to let you all know. So for folks that are interested and this may not be the year for them, we're really working hard, so it's not the only opportunity. Rain, would you like to introduce yourself as well? Again.
Yeah, I'm Rain Vermette. I'm in Winnipeg, which is my home, Winnipeg, Manitoba, and yeah, I'm very excited to just like share knowledge and learn and also unlearn and start like deconstructing sort of the confines that we sort of hold film into and kind of dream into new spaces. And yeah, this is the first of many dreams and I'm super excited.
Awesome. So this little info session will have a bit of a flow where some info will be shared about what to expect with the program, kind of an overview of our very text-heavy information that can be found online through the Filmpool's website or Instagram or social media. And then there'll be a bit of room for Rain and I to have a bit of a conversation around what these dreams emerged from and what type of space we're trying to hold in creating this. And then of course there'll be time for a bit of a Q&A with the folks that are here live with us while recording. So if any of the folks that are with us in the live session have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, but we'll definitely make room for things to be answered a bit more thoroughly after the overview and the conversation between the two of us. Can I get some reactions for confirmation for the folks that are here live? Oh, see some nice ones, amazing. Oh, whoop, whoop, indeed. Okay, I'm very nerdily amped. This is like a full dream come true. So Rain, I was gonna do this like maybe a little bit boring thing of like reading from the website, if that sounds good to you.
Go for it.
Okay. I'll try and make it fun, folks. I'll try and make it fun. Okay, Color Reversal, an analog-based arts incubator for BIPOC creators, which of course is presented by us, the Saskatchewan Filmpool Cooperative, in collaboration with filmmaker and media artist and person extraordinaire, Rain Vermette, who is also here. And it is a BIPOC-centered analog film incubator in Regina, Saskatchewan, Treaty 4, set to take place in late March, AKA right around the corner. The place-based research lab merges storytelling with experimental 16mm film in an intergenerational arts context and will consist of a 5-day retreat followed by a self-determined mentorship. I know that there have been a few questions about what this self-determined mentorship means. Will the mentors be paid? And those questions will certainly be answered after I do this funny little read here. The color reversal process refers to a type of film stock that produces a positive image on film versus a negative one, which would need additional processing in order to accurately depict what was captured. This program gets its namesake from this film development process as a way of centering the necessity of BIPOC-led strategies for the ongoing advancement of analog and storytelling practices. Color reversal will provide a context for 10 BIPOC cohort members to explore and experiment with storytelling and analog practice. This program will facilitate the development of current and future moving image artists by making room to explore and create the lab. Oh, there's a period there. By creating room and making room to explore and create. The lab holds space for the deconstruction of analog practices and activates room for exchange between a network of peers. Color reversal would be a co-created space with an emphasis on participatory design. So some key dates. This program had the application process open on the 15th of February. Today is the info session. We have the application deadline set for this Friday at 4 p.m. or this Friday the 4th at 11:59 p.m. CST. And we're aiming to notify all applicants by the 11th, possibly a bit before. The lab dates will be Saturday, March 19th until Thursday, March 24th. And we will have one virtual group session, or we'll have 2 virtual group sessions per month for March and April. And yeah, it's a pilot project. This project is also funded by a sector innovation grant, which is through the Canada Council for the Arts. So we are really happy to be in relationship with our core funder in this way to deliver this type of programming, and that the adjudicators believed in this project enough to give us the funds to make it happen. And also a bit of naming as well, that even though this project was co-created by Rain and myself, it's also based on early discussions between Rain and filmmakers Heidi Phillips and Emily Atkins. So definitely want to shout out those relational networks of really awesome filmmakers. So in terms of retreat content, it'll mainly focus on a 16mm analog practice, and folks can be at any levels. Some folks are going to come with a ton of experience using 16mm film. Some folks will be brand new. It's really meant to hold space for all of those levels. There will be a couple of workshops over the 5-day retreat, including sound recording, camera operation, darkroom eco-processing, film collaging, and more. There will be a couple of screenings that'll be in the evening. Those will be open to the public because we, even though are really committed to creating this intentional BIPOC space for a retreat style lab, we also want to have opportunities to invite the broader communities in intentional ways, and that'll take place during evening screenings. We'll have artist talks, field trips, creative discussions and collaboration, and self-directed experimentation. Couple of key points. All of the participants will be getting an honorarium in the amount of 1,000 Canadian dollars. And we came to this term by thinking about the amount of time that we're asking people to be in workshop or learning contexts or creation or co-creation contexts. And we put a dollar amount to that over a 5-day period so that we were honoring people for their labor as artists, and also as professional skills building and development time. Transportation to and from Regina, as well as accommodations for out-of-town participants, will be covered. Accessibility needs will be accommodated and respected, including but not limited to ASL interpretation, multilingual support, childcare, being in physically accessible locations, having a scent-reduced space, and more. I encourage folks, if you haven't already had the chance, to take a look at the Filmpool's access page to get a sense of what our physical space is like, and if it meets your needs. And we will also be coordinating high quality digital transfers of everybody's experiments afterwards. A couple more key points. Everyone will have access to COVID-19 rapid tests for every day of the in-person retreat. For folks that are not able to attend the in-person part of it for access reasons, there will be a virtual postal alternative with a dedicated peer facilitator. And we just ask that if folks are needing to go that route, that they mention it in their application so that we could properly accommodate their access needs there. We really tried to make the application process as straightforward and streamlined as we could collaboratively come up with. And you'll notice while looking through the points on the website or on socials that we are really wanting the program itself to be open to folks that don't have to be dedicated filmmakers at this stage. It's more about creating an intentional space with folks that are open to learning, experimenting, deconstructing, and being a good neighbor. The program is open to applications and nominations from folks that work in any discipline at any stage of their practice. And this is an open call to all storytellers, filmmakers, artists, and creatives. We're looking together to bring a broad group of folks together, as I had just mentioned. Half of the spots will be available and reserved for folks based in or with connections to the prairies. And 3/4 of the spots available will be reserved for folks with underrepresented genders. So let's see. We're making the applications and nominations open to folks that are 16 plus. And we also strongly encourage nominations. Nominators must clearly be able to demonstrate the consent of the folks they're nominating. And the ideal cohort member would be creative, inquisitive, have a desire to experiment with analog practices, and have an interest in co-creating an intentional space. In terms of the nuts and bolts of what you need to submit, we're looking for a one-page description on your interest in the lab or on the person that you're nominating. We'd like to hear a bit about what you might bring to the group and your interest in storytelling or analog film practices. Folks are also welcome to name someone they'd like to pursue a self-determined mentorship with, but that point is optional, especially if you're new to analog practices. It might not be clear who you would want to pursue that with. So if you don't have a person in mind, don't feel like you're put at a loss. It's definitely optional, and that's not going to be the determining factor. In terms of accessibility needs, we would like for you to let us know how we can accommodate you. Some examples include childcare, allergies, interpretation of any kind, assistance, virtual postal participation, dietary restrictions, etc. You know your needs, and you know how spaces like ours would do better by making a program more supportive of your engagement. So we're really here for that because we're here for you. And we would also just like a short little bio. And if you'd like to include your artist CV as well, if you have one, that would be great. It'll give us a little context for knowing who you are as a creative. We also name that video or audio submissions in lieu of written ones are accepted. And if you have any application assistance that you need, you can contact Louise Big Eagle at programs@filmpool.ca. And then if you feel like you're ready to submit your application, you can just go ahead and submit it to me whenever you want. I know a couple of faces here have submitted already, which is wonderful. And thank you for that. And just to circle back to a point earlier, in terms of the self-determined mentorship, we have CARFAC rates put aside for a half-day consultation for paying more than one people for everybody's self-determined mentorship. And for the folks that are going to be a part of this first cohort of color reversal, you'll definitely get the details there. But we believe in everybody's ability to know what learning looks like for them and who they might want to do that with. And as an institution and also as filmmakers, we're able to use our leverage to help support your growth and learning. And I think that, you know, mentorship doesn't have to be hierarchical by any means, you know, like maybe you want to be mentored by your peer. Maybe you want to be mentored by somebody in a horizontal way, or someone who's emerging, even if you're not. Mentorship works best when it gets to be circular. And we also encourage that. In fact, I think people in this cohort may even find themselves wanting to be mentored by other people in this cohort, you know. There's really so much room there for how you choose to self-determine that. So long story short, we have CARFAC rates set aside for everyone's self-determined mentorship. So I know I've been talking a lot. I personally am tired of my own voice. Can I get some reactions in emoji form or in the chat, just to make sure I haven't lulled everyone to sleep? Got some nice ones. Wow, it's just great reaction space. Rain, what are your thoughts on all of this? What would you like to hop in on and add before we kind of like get to our chatting?
Yeah, I kind of like envision this as like a lab, and I'm interested because I want to learn as well. I'm sort of at a place where I'm like ready to like rethink how a story or a film comes together in my mind's eye. And so I know like at the retreat in Regina, I'll be bringing stuff and like have intentions to be like working on the optical printer, and you know, so you know, I encourage people, if you have interests or things you're working on, you know, like this is a space that, you know, I don't know, I'm thinking back to like being in a studio with all these people around and kind of trying to get that vibe and learn off one another. And yeah, we don't want a hierarchical like structure. We from the get-go we're talking about like peers are mentors and mentors are peers, and we kind of, as much as somebody who might be facilitating a workshop, they are also a peer, and we hope that like they'll be working on something and experimenting, and we're all sort of at the same level and enjoying the process and the discovery. And yeah, have fun also. I just like really want to like have some fun. And yeah, I don't know, what else should I add? Am I missing anything?
No, that's yeah, I think that's so awesome. And that peers as mentors, mentors as peers point is so key. Like that's like at the foundation of this space, because I think there's something about hierarchical spaces as like this person is who you're learning from, and this person is who is the one learning, that really can kind of limit the breadth of our experiences and our what we have to bring to things. So yeah, that's something that we really wanted to intentionally create space for. Because I think that the best kind of intersectional spaces are the ones where that's at the start of planning and not an afterthought, you know? And it really means that how this cohort is constructed and the energy that people like understand will be a part of the space is like also going to create waves in like ways we don't even know yet, you know? Yeah, so definitely big dreams for this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we were sitting in Old Market Square when you were first talking about this idea? It was like fall 2020 and it was Windex Festival season. Yeah, I was like eating soup or something really fast, but it was like hot, you know, and it's like the fall, so it's like the weather's not too cold, it's not too hot, and I'm like, Rain, I hope this isn't weird. It was also like a serious discussion of just like so hungry, trying to get food in before running off to the next thing. And like, I don't know, for me, something about that like starting point, I was like, okay, if we can just sit in this park and like talk about this thing and I can like shove this food in my face, this is already a good beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I just rambled and you were just like, okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's like I was there. I was fully there. Yeah. I think this could be a good time to open it up to questions folks might have, and a fun way to sort of facilitate that. Well, we do have a raised hand, so we could start there, but if folks just wanted to put any kind of character or number in the chat, that'll just be like a placeholder, and I'll know who to call on next if you have a question. So this is an example. That's a random character or number. So yeah, if you do have a question, you could just like put anything like that in the chat and I'll know to get to you next. But Diane, I did see your hand raised too, which is also a great function. So yeah, we can just start with you.
I think my question, so this is really exciting. Sorry if construction noise starts. They're doing stuff upstairs. But my question is if you have to name someone that you may want to mentor you if you did get accepted into the program, could you put that you're unsure? Because then maybe you can, part of me is like, maybe there's a match that may come up as you're in the workshop. And that's kind of how I was thinking.
Totally.
Totally.
Yeah.
You don't have to know. And like Shimbi said, you know,
Yeah.
when the applications are being read through, if somebody doesn't know, you know, it's not like a burn against you. We understand that it's hard to know sometimes and you have to go through it to know, and we allow for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you do put someone in the application, you're not by any means bound to working with that person. And another fun fact is we do have enough budget for people to have more than one self-determined mentorship. So yeah, there's
We
room.
can also help make suggestions or through the process if you are having a hard time. So we don't want anyone to feel like that might be a barrier. We are, you know, please, if don't, you know, because I know it's a big thing to think of a person to mentor you, and there's so many people to choose from. It's exciting. It's something to get excited about. Yeah.
Yeah. So next we have Daphne.
Hi, Diane's question was actually also part of my question. I was wondering if you could talk a bit more about the self-determined mentorship. Is it like you mentioned like consultations, that they'd be paid for consultations, but that's just like is that just an administrative thing, or is that how you're imagining it, as something structured like within the 5 days?
Yeah, so the idea there is that would be work that you can do before the 5 days, it can be after. There isn't really pressure or expectations on our part for it to happen by a certain time. For the folks that are in the cohort, like they will be kind of interested and instructed on how to do that, or like basically we're wanting to limit or we're wanting to not limit we're wanting to not limit how people go about determining their learning opportunities. So cohort members will be given the equivalent of a certain amount for CARFAC rates that they would then like approach people with and be able to know that they have that separate from their honorarium to go towards that. But no, it doesn't have to happen before or during the retreat. It's most likely going to be that folks are going to want time and space to think about who they want to do that with. Yeah.
Okay, and would we be like responsible for reaching out to those mentors, or?
Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. And we can help facilitate that if folks want that. So yeah, if that is a thing that folks would want in the cohort, then they would just have to communicate that to us. But yeah, we'll have kind of a little instructional type thing in the info packet that cohort members get that outline things like that.
Okay, thank you.
For sure. Next we have Louise.
Hi, yeah, my question was if the application is open for people who live outside of Canada, just making sure about that.
Yeah, and that's a very good question. So in the demos, in the demographics that we had outlined, we have specified that half of the spots will be reserved to folks that have a relationship with the prairies. And then also that 3/4 of the spots will be reserved to folks that have underrepresented genders, which is just a very kind of, you know, laborious arts admin term to say 3/4 of the spots will go towards folks that aren't cis men. But we have not specified about whether or not folks are going to be in Canada or not. I think we definitely, as a project in this sort of first beta test, have conceptualized it as one that is for folks that locate themselves in so-called Canada. But yeah, I guess intentionally / kind of with certain kind of verbal gymnastics, we haven't exactly not named that. Rain, I'm not sure if you want to jump in there, but
yeah, I don't know. I think like we're open. We're very, very open. And so that's the thing, like we are dreaming big and we are really wanting to give back and sort of use sort of like what we know as a means to give back. So it's not off the table is basically, I think for the first iteration, it's not off the table. Definitely we're thinking, you know, for something international next year and like.
Yeah, more explicitly, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, that's not the best answer. I don't know.
We've got JM in the chat, which maybe was just a smiley face, like a regular smiley face, or maybe it was a question.
Sorry, it's me, Julieta.
Yeah.
I think part of my question has been answered because I was just wondering about the mentorship part, the self-determined mentorship, and thinking that I might not have access to a lab, for example, after if I do the workshop with you in that case, I wouldn't have access to a lab in April, for example. So I was wondering if that was tied to those sessions in April, and or if I would have more time to look for a mentor and dedicate more time like later on in the year.
Mhm. Yeah, there's definitely more time. And Julieta, did you say you're based out of Victoria?
No, I'm
Did I make that
really
up?
based. I'm really based on Ontario, but
In Ontario, okay, fully made it up.
I'm spending 3 months in Denman.
Okay,
So I'm currently in BC, but I will be returning to Ontario later.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, like we definitely would like to help as much as possible if there are ways to kind of facilitate connections to local film production centers wherever folks are based. But also there are going to be really wonderful skills building opportunities around eco-processing, which is just a lot more of a softer and like less harsh, less harmful on your body, less harmful on the environment film developing process for the 16mm Hicon black and white film stock that we're using. So oftentimes with those tools, people end up sort of making their own DIY darkrooms where you're not actually inhaling like, you know, terrible noxious fumes. Like you still need to wear like a mask and protection. But it's definitely like its own unique experience where we make our own developers out of, you know, like plants and like vitamin C and, you know, just ingredients that are not gonna make you ill. So yeah, that'll be a part of the skill building too.
That's great. That's a great skill to have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions that folks have at this time? We have a letter from Adrian.
Hi. When I saw the post, I immediately sat on my laptop and submitted my application in one sitting. I was just so excited. I was wondering if there's any way I could maybe exchange some emails and include some extra information, if that wouldn't be too bothersome or annoying. I'm sorry. I definitely got it all out way too quickly.
Oh, that definitely would not be bothersome at all. I also just like was reading that application on the bus. I'm just gonna, you know what, I'm like, there's room to share this story. This is what like these intentional spaces are about, is reading that application on the bus, because a terrible thing about being an executive director is that you're always checking your work email on your phone. And I read it and I like started crying because it was within 4 hours of our post of it to our socials and website. And like your application was really everything that we would hope for. So, and honestly, I think I also feel like there's room to share that too, because I know that literally everyone here and everyone applying is gonna show up in that way. Like, I think you all are the dream cohort, and how do we sort of finesse room for everybody when we're doing a beta test of what our dream analog incubator is, right? So kind of TMI story short, if you or anybody submits before the deadline, but within limit, if you're like, I'm so sorry, I actually want to resubmit this, like once, like please, like everybody, not like 3 or 4 resubmissions. It's going to be a bit much for me as the sort of secret, not so secret administrator on the back end. But if folks submit it early with enthusiasm, really wants to resubmit, there is room for that. But yeah, I would just like to say, please no more than one resubmission, just for my own peace of mind. Wow, this room is really getting dark. I'm just like, I'm fully in the dark. Yeah, Rain, what's your cat's name?
This is Manners.
Matters.
Poppy in the retreat, yeah.
If folks have cats, do you want to just put a reaction on your Blackboard screen? I'm curious, just for my own curiosity. I'm just gonna, yes.
Cats,
There we go. Look at that cat love, big cat love. Mark has the cat love in the chat, which I just want to check in to see if that is a question or just cat love.
No, that's just cat love.
Just cat love. Okay, great. Awesome. Also, there's no, no shaming here of people who have dog or other kind of animal love, it's all good, yeah, so it is 6:07 CST. And we're just over an hour in. Rola, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, I have one final question. I wonder if you can just quickly elaborate on the difference between the online module and in-person module, and also second part of that question, how many spots do you have in total?
So in our app, thank you for those questions. In our application for funding, we had set aside 10 spots total, but I know already Rain and I are really gonna struggle with that. And luckily, we're also getting quite a few wonderful applicants from closer on the prairies, which means that our hosting and transport costs would be significantly reduced. So, as BIPOC, we have the skills of finessing room when room is warranted. And we are very committed to that. So I think that, 10 people is what we have on paper. What I will say is the Filmpool's facilities is just over 2,000 square feet. And I think that in the physical space, having much more than that would be tight. But I think that there would be room for folks that are interested in the virtual postal option to participate in that way. We're still in the process of developing what that parallel curriculum might look like, because we're wanting there to be, oh, for sure, Diane, I see your note in the chat. Bye, thanks for coming. There's still, now I just lost my train of thought because I'm just full of smiles because Diane is great.
Figuring it out. We're figuring out the.
Yeah, totally. We're figuring out the virtual postal segment because that would, I guess it would also depend on where someone is based in terms of who the peer/facilitator they would be partnered with would be. And I think there might be a bit more of like a one-on-one kind of tailored sort of approach to that, so that the person that we're matching the cohort member with would be a good fit, even if they're far away. And then just in terms of mailing things out, like we would mail out film, we would mail out eco-processing solution, we would arrange for a camera rental to be mailed out if it's sort of far from a production center, or if you're located in a bigger city where there is analog production facilities available, we would arrange for a rental. Yeah, so we're still figuring it out, but we're definitely committed to making it as good, if not, to be honest, maybe even a little bit more dreamy than the in-person space. Because I think that, yeah, I think sometimes there could be this weird approach that orgs take to accessibility, where it's just this BS afterthought. But in our case, it's been at the start of all of our processing, and we're just wanting it to be more tailor-made towards the people's needs. Yeah, so maybe that would just end up being more of like a one-on-one kind of intentional learning environment. Yeah. Oh, and I did want to also name too, in terms of other access needs, but also particularly childcare, like funds set aside for childcare can mean different things. Wow. Also, it's very dark where I am. If folks will just give me 1 second to turn on a lamp, I will just be right back.
Turn on the lights. The online stuff could happen or not, like it could be online or in person, or we can also mail supplies. Like I recently took a workshop where we were mailed, it was all these supplies to do like hand painting on film, and it was actually really, really awesome workshop, and it was awesome to get like a nice package of like all these fun things to like manipulate film with, and was super inspiring. Yeah.
Totally.
Really special.
Yeah, I'm so like, you know, affectionately jealous of that workshop, because
Yeah,
it was so amazing from a few people. And yeah, I think that's kind of where things, yeah, to kind of build on what Rain just said and to clarify, it'll probably be more of a thing where the folks that are doing the virtual postal iteration of it will be live for like the workshop parts, and then there'll be a bit more of like a free form and self-determined creation and experimentation time, or working with like one-on-one with the peer facilitator, separate from those workshop times type of a thing. But yeah, definitely tailor-made. The point I wanted to make about childcare in terms of access needs is that when we say childcare, we don't just mean money for sitters. With thinking about contemporary feminist practices, especially when it comes to art making and being an artist, we hold space for folks to kind of name what that means for them. So if you're the primary caregiver of a kid and childcare access needs for you means that kid coming, then the funds we have set aside for childcare can also cover that. Or if it means that a family member that you know and trust is the person that your kid is with for the duration that you're here, or you need to take lots of breaks to kind of check in with your kid, there's room for that. We definitely want to make space for parents in that way. And we can kind of discuss that more. I just want to be clear that that would not by any stretch be a barrier for someone applying. And we definitely encourage more expansive views of what accommodating that looks like. So much so that we, depending on who our cohort is, may even have an additional person hired that's specifically there to do kind of childcare, or just sort of like maybe even like a kids, like a mini kids version of the reversal. So yeah, and you know, and we all know if that's the case, like those kids are just gonna be like making the most amazing analog projects, putting all of us to shame. But yeah, Louise, I see in the chat that you also have to go. Thanks for being here. Yeah. Yep.
So excited.
Yeah. Well, I see in the caption, yep, yeah, and yeah. So that's enough space filling for me. Rolla, I see your comment, and no prob. Maybe at this time, 6:15. We have about 15 more minutes. Yay, happy to hear that, Julietta, in the chat. If anybody has any kind of questions or comments or insults or just joking
Yes.
on that last part. But yeah, feel free to speak up, even if there's something that's not fully formed right now, but you kind of would like to maybe hear what we would have to say or think about it. There's room for that too.
I just want to comment that I love the enthusiastic way you presented, and Rihanna. I mean, when you are telling that, I was thinking we must create a feel about how the idea was building, and in my mind I follow your details, and Winnipeg is quite amazing place, and you had this passion, this enthusiasm to transmit is amazing. It's amazing because not all our dreams come true, and when it happens, we really need to celebrate. Just with this.
Yes.
Bravo.
Right. It is a celebration. I'm happy that we're meeting in Regina. Like, I've spent a lot of time in Saskatchewan. Like, everybody, we kind of like talk about Winnipeg a lot, but Saskatchewan has always been so kind to me in times when I would like really needed someone to be kind to me, and Saskatchewan was always there to me. So I'm so happy to be giving back and to be spending time creating in Regina, which was like basically my home for about years ago. Yeah.
David in the chat, I see you there. Thanks for being here. Yeah, and I do just want to say too, like, we'll make as much room as we can for this, but again, it's a beta test, and I think it's already like dreams being realized, dreams being built on dreams that beget more dreams. So for folks that apply and may not be successful at this time, or for folks that nominate other people and the folks they're nominating, if they're not successful this time, we're definitely wanting it to not end here. And there most likely will be other opportunity even in between for more engagement. So yeah, this is not an ending or a beginning, but it's just, the continuum, and we're here for it. So okay. Well, 6:19. I think that would be a good time to call it. Julietta, I see you in the chat. Have a good night. Thanks everybody for showing up tonight, and thanks everyone for tuning in who will be tuning in after the fact.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Have a good night. See ya.
Bye, James. Lodi, that was awesome.